A new threat would have done the story of the sequel Star Wars trilogy a lot of good, especially if it was on the intergalactic scale of Ahsoka. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching for more details. The new galaxy introduced in Ahsoka opens up a world of potential threats and mysteries, leaving the sequel Star Wars trilogy feeling small in comparison. The sequel trilogy's narrative focused on the First Order's rise to power, but it missed the opportunity to explore the intergalactic scale of conflict that the new galaxy of Ahsoka offered. By uniting the entire galaxy against a massive threat from the newly discovered galaxy, the sequel trilogy could have been saved from some of its criticisms and offered a more original and epic storyline. The new galaxy showcased in Ahsoka makes the sequel Star Wars trilogy an afterthought. The Star Wars series brought intergalactic travel to the forefront in the post-war galaxy, opening up the pathway to Peridea, and thus unlocking the many mysteries of a brand new galaxy. Still, the main conflict of the Star Wars series remained centered on Grand Admiral Thrawn, even with a greater galaxy now in reach. The story of the sequel Star Wars trilogy wasn't able to explore these mysteries, as it was instead concerned with the First Order rising to power from the Imperial remnants. The conflict had some larger consequences than even the original trilogy, such as Starkiller Base's ability to destroy multiple planets all at once. But for many, it felt like an offshoot of what had already occurred while the Empire was in power. With the First Order rising from the ashes of the Empire, a brand new threat would have done the story of the sequel trilogy a lot of good, especially if it was on an intergalactic scale. Unlocking an entirely new galaxy also means unlocking the huge potential for brand new threats. This is the case with the galaxy of Ahsoka, especially now that the pathway to Peridea has been unlocked and used to travel between the two galaxies. Thrawn was the only threat the Ahsoka crew was worried about, but there's now the potential for anyone to cross over and pose a number of new and unknown threats. Ahsoka has already revealed that the ancient history of the galaxy stretches intergalactically, which could mean there are thousands of new species left to explore. This could also mean there are thousands of chances for a species or a group to think they were better suited for ruling or dominating the familiar galaxy. The massive scale of such a conflict and the idea of the unknown could have made for a thrilling story in the Star Wars years to follow. Instead, the big threat of the sequel Star Wars trilogy remained intragalactic, bringing back the nostalgia of the original trilogy with the rise of the First Order and the formation of the Resistance. The knowledge of another galaxy in Ahsoka makes this conflict pale in comparison to what could have been, with the gateway between galaxies thrust open. Rather than splitting the galaxy and letting the remnants of the Empire rise to power once again, it could have been the entire galaxy united against a singular yet massive threat. This would have made for both an original and a large-scale event that may have been able to save the sequel Star Wars trilogy from many of its criticisms. This could, however, still become a part of the sequel trilogy story by explaining why heroes like Ahsoka weren't around for the conflict between the First Order and the Resistance. If intergalactic threats needed to be taken care of, it would have been people like Ahsoka who would have helped to lead those efforts, while the crew of the sequel trilogy helped to take care of the smaller threats still within the galaxy. Still, this would have had an even greater function as the main plot and story of the movies, if only the new galaxy of Ahsoka had been explored just a few years earlier.